All right, guys, you're going to hear this here first, and I will almost guarantee you within the next month, maybe weeks, maybe days, maybe even hours, that Worcester will become the next sanctuary city for illegal immigrants, because I'm here today to tell you about the dangerous and reckless executive order that was just signed by the City Manager Eric Batista. I'm going to share this with you in a minute too, but this order effectively turns Worcester into a somewhat sanctuary city by shielding illegal immigrants at the expense of public safety and, let's say, the rule of law. As you know, it's laws for some, not for all. That's how it goes. These laws are optional, it seems. So I'm going to share this with you, and then I'll give you some commentary and my opinions on some of these things, right? So here it is. Municipal employees shall not participate in an operation led by a federal agency solely for the enforcement of federal civil immigration laws, except in response to a request to assist with support services deemed necessary to ensure officer safety, public safety, to prevent a breach of peace during a federal operation, including requests to establish traffic perimeters, control traffic, or provide police escort, or for the assistance in the apprehension of an individual who is also wanted on a criminal arrest warrant. No Worcester police officer shall perform the functions of an immigration officer, whether pursuant to 8 U.S.C. Section 1357G or any other law, regulation, or policy, whether formal or informal. Municipal employees shall not provide access to records, information, or non-public areas of municipal buildings solely for the enforcement of federal civil immigration laws unless required by a valid judicial warrant, court order, or other applicable law. Definitions. ICE, a federal agency charged with border and immigration control. ICE is responsible for the enforcement of federal immigration laws. We know this. ICE administrative warrant. A warrant, notice to appear, removal order, warrant of deportation, or other ICE custody document issued by federal immigration officials, not a judicial officer, and not based on finding of probable cause for an alleged criminal law violation. Compliance with the law. Here we go. The municipality and the Worcester Police Department will uphold the Constitution and civil rights of all persons regardless of immigration status. Law enforcement officials in Massachusetts do not have the authority to arrest or carry out detention requests made in federal civil immigration detainers. The WPD shall not arrest, detain, or investigate an individual solely based on an alleged civil violation of federal immigration laws. As I said, laws for some, not for all. Why do we have laws if they are not enforced? Why do we have laws that they are optional? I don't know. No municipal employee, officer, or official shall interfere, prohibit, or prevent the federal enforcement of immigration laws, including federal investigations, enforcement operations, or ICE detainers. That's funny that they added it there because that's exactly what happened in Worcester. Okay, Section 5. Nothing in this order shall prevent the municipality or the Worcester Police Department from working with federal government to comply with the law, nor shall anything in this order prevent the Worcester Police Department from working with ICE or any federal agency in their official capacity, so long as the sole purpose is not the enforcement of civil federal immigration. This executive order shall take effect today, May 6th. Is it the 16th? No, this was May 16th. Today's the 19th. And shall remain in effect until repealed by a subsequent executive order. I'm probably sure somebody is working on that as we speak. So let me break some of this down for you so that I could kind of catch you up to speed here. So it goes like this, right? If you look at Section 5 in this order, it basically bans Worcester Police from working with ICE or any federal agency unless the sole purpose is enforcing civil federal immigration laws. This means that even if ICE is pursuing, let's say, a known criminal, right? An individual who poses a let's say, clear threat to the community, the Worcester police are ordered to stand down. The problem here, when you think about this, is that they are prohibiting from cooperating, sharing information, or assisting in any way, unless it's, let's say, for something unrelated to immigration enforcement. So again, this creates hysteria in a community, especially when you have like these ICE hotlines where people are showing up with these pamphlets. They're getting in the way of ICE. They're getting in the way of local police officers, and they're trying to prevent an arrest. So essentially, if there was a detainer ordered, this person could have been picked up. But the problem is, when you do not comply with ICE, it makes it so that ICE has to go into these communities, right? This isn't just a policy. It's literally a deliberate obstruction of federal law. First of all, documents like this one, they undermine public safety. ICE's primary mission, it seems as though they are removing dangerous individuals from communities. Those who have committed crimes, violated our immigration laws, impose ongoing risks to those said communities. And by tying the hands of the police in Worcester, it's really creating a safe haven for criminals like that Ferreira de Oliveira, who, as we know, has been charged with assaulting a pregnant woman who just happened to be her pregnant daughter with a telephone. Now, under this order, this specific order, someone like this could evade ICE simply because the Worcester police, they're barred from assisting in the apprehension if the pursuit is immigration related. Second of all, the order literally starts to erode the rule of law. I do not understand why these so-called officials are trying to circumvent these things. Federal immigration law exists for a reason, and that's to protect our borders, to maintain some levels of order, and ensure that those who break the law face some levels of consequences. Again, why even have a border if people could just come over freely? Why even have the laws if we don't need the laws? By instructing municipal employees not to comply with ICE, Worcester is basically placing itself above federal law. Does that make sense? That is what's happening here. And then in Section 4, they said they want to uphold the Constitution and civil rights. But what about the rights of law-abiding citizens that want to live in a safe community? What about the federal government's constitutional authority to enforce immigration law? This basically, when you have stuff like this is what happens, right? Think of bigger picture here. This basically sends a message that breaking the law is acceptable as long as you claim the right intentions. That's it. Why are these laws optional for some but not all? I'll say it again. That's what this is. Third, when you really think about this, right? This policy puts our police in a really bad position. The Worcester Police Department is supposed to protect the residents of Worcester, but this order forces them to ignore federal detainers and avoid cooperation with ICE. Imagine being a police officer who knows there's a dangerous individual in your city, in your community, whatever it may be, and you're in a position where ICE, there's some level of an administrative warrant for deportation, but you're forbidden from actually acting on this because of this local order or local mandate. That's not just frustrating, I'm sure, for the police officers, but it's a betrayal to the officers who put their lives on the line every single day to keep the community safe. It also probably opens up some levels of litigation on that officer, which is also a problem. Finally, let's really talk about really bigger picture here, bigger scale here. So every single time Maura Healey claims Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, but by allowing these so-called officials to circumvent federal law at will, how is it not? Sanctuary policies like this don't just affect Worcester. They signal to the rest of, let's say, the state, the rest of these cities, the rest of the municipalities here that defying federal law is acceptable. If every city decides it can pick and choose which laws to follow, isn't that chaos? Isn't that literally one of the definitions of chaos, right? Why is prioritizing a political ideology more important than public safety? Worcester is going to lose federal funding. I will almost guarantee that. And that will come after they claim they're a sanctuary city. Hands down. What's happening in this state is absolutely ludicrous. Where is the charity for the U.S. citizens sleeping on the street? Where is the compassion for the residents of the state when towns are behind on budget, but the state doesn't step in? Where's the law for the U.S. citizens here? Okay, I'm sure there are a lot of people within these communities that don't agree with these mandates and these policies that these so-called state officials are enacting. They have no say in these things. So think of it this way. You're moving into a city, you're moving into a town or whatever. You think that things are going to be the way that they are. And then all of a sudden, at the drop of a hat or at the drop of a dime, things get changed forever. And that's what's happening here. It's really despicable that these people have to go through these things. And that, you know, when you really think about it, like if the local police assisted ICE, we wouldn't have so many issues with what we saw in Worcester, right? If there was a detainer or something requested, this person got let out on bail. Now they're going into these communities to try to find these people. Like, don't you think it would just be the path of least resistance to, if you have an illegal immigrant that's arrested and there's a detainer or something of that nature, keep them detained, let ICE pick them up. It's a done deal. I feel like that is the most simplest case here, right? Like, but now they're going into the communities. There's this huge uproar. You have these mayors, you have these officials of these cities that are going, they're hugging these people, they're trying to protect these people, they're getting in the way, they're basically obstructing justice. Then, furthermore, you have that loose, let's say, immigration hotline where they're receiving hundreds of phone calls when ICE shows up, and still they are obstructing federal justice here. What the hell is going on? Right? That's what this boils down to. What the hell is going on? Look, I'm all for helping people, okay? I've helped people my entire life. But the fact is, by helping one subsection of people, you are hurting the other. I do not understand how people cannot understand or see this, right? If you came here illegally, if you cross the border illegally under the Biden administration, imagine what would have happened if Biden got back into office or Kamala got back into office, right? Our state's budget is already screwed, right? Like, there's got to be a time and place where you think to yourself, Jesus, all these towns are behind on budget. The state's behind on budget. Everything is being inflated. There's all these no-bid contracts out there to, you know, people's political donors. At what point, even if it's legal on paper, at what point does ethics come into play, right? Where is the ethics behind this? It doesn't make any sense to me. But mark my words, as I said earlier in this video, I will almost guarantee you that Worcester will be the next sanctuary city. Hands down. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.